Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1. You are going to hear a conversation. Before you listen, please look at questions 1 to 10. Now listen to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 10.
Well, I see from your CV, Cindy, that you studied at Central University. How could you find it there?
I had a great time. The teaching was great and I made a lot of great friends. The psychology department was a great place.
So, how have you chosen psychology?
Well, at first I didn't have any clear idea of what I wanted to do after university. I didn't say to myself, I want to be a clinical psychologist or a researcher or anything like that, I suppose. I've just always been interested in people and the way they act. I wanted to know why people think and act the way they do. Fascinating.
And what was the course like?
Like I said, it was just great. The teachers were all really friendly and they had this special approach to teaching. You know, they didn't just give us lectures and tell us to read books, like what they might do in some more traditional places. The whole course was based on a problem-solving approach. You know, they'd describe a particular situation to us and we'd speculate about what might happen. After that, we'd do the reading and see that it confirmed our own ideas. That's what I like best, the really practical orientation of the course. I learned very well with that style, so for me, it was just great.
I see from your CV that you graduated in 1986, and after that, let me see...
I got a job with the Department of Employment. It was only a temporary thing, about 6 months. I was a researcher in the department. I used to have to design questionnaires and things like that for surveys that they carried out. We'd design a survey, go out to the lectures and ask all the questions to the workers and the management, then go back to the office and analyse all the data. It was really interesting. And I guess the psychology course at college helped me a lot. We did a whole unit on statistical analysis, and that came in very useful for analysing the questionnaires and presenting the data in our reports. You know, I guess it really would have been very difficult if I hadn't had that kind of training.
And after that, you worked for 4 years in an advertising agency. That must have been a change from the Department of Employment, wasn't it?
Well, not really. I guess the office furnishings were a bit more sophisticated, but the job was fairly similar. I was basically still doing the same thing, designing questionnaires, going out, asking questions and marking reports. The only difference was that this time I wasn't asking people about their work. I was asking them what kind of washing powder they bought and if they preferred brand X to brand Y. Then I'd make up a report and the agency would use the information in their advertising campaigns. I enjoyed it a lot.
So, why did you leave?
Well, 4 years is a long time to be asking people, you know, those sorts of questions about washing powder and shampoo. No, seriously. After 2 years, I was in charge of the research department of the agency, and I had one assistant researcher. I guess after doing 2 years, that I suppose I felt, I know I can do this well, and now I want to do something else that's a little different. And there was nowhere for me to go inside the company. It just wasn't challenging for me anymore. And because I needed a challenge, I decided to move on. When I heard about the position of senior researcher here at the Institute, I thought, that's exactly what I want. The chance to combine my management skills and my research interests working in a much larger department with more varied work.
And you felt that the job description in our advertisement would offer you the kind of challenge you were looking for?
Exactly, yes. As I said, management in a larger organisation and research combined. Also, to be honest, I heard about the job before it was advertised. A friend of mine who works here in the publications section, Don Pink, told me a few weeks ago that you were looking for someone to take over the job. He described the position to me in detail, and I thought that's exactly what I'm looking for. So really, I'd written my letter of application before the job was even advertised.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
I should tell you that with the present cutbacks, we've only got one full-time administrative assistant in the section. How would you feel about doing your own word processing, typing, that sort of thing?
Oh, I'm used to that. I've done all my own word processing for ages. It's the only way to write, really, isn't it? I can type well, about 60 words a minute. I did a secretarial course after I left school, so I learned typing and shorthand, and then a few years later, I bought a PC, and I taught myself how to do word processing too.
Well, that's handy. Now, in the position you've applied for, you'd have 5 assistant researchers responsible to you. That's considerably more responsibility than you've had before, so you're obviously ambitious. And as you said you like a challenge, I was wondering what you see yourself doing in, say, 5 or 10 years down the track.
Oh, that's a difficult question. Let me try to answer your question this way. I'm particularly interested in experimental design and also teaching. I'd like to continue the organisation and planning side of research and do some teaching too. I know that you have lecturers here who do just that sort of thing, some practical work and some undergraduate teaching. So that's what really I'd be aiming for, to be a lecturer here at the Institute.
Well, that's certainly a career path that we'd encourage you to follow, but, of course, it might be necessary to upgrade your present qualification. I see from your CV that you've enrolled in an MA in experimental psychology. Could you tell me about the courses you're planning to take?
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Before you listen, please look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen to the lecture and answer questions 11 to 20.
Good evening. I know many students are the proud owners of their first motor vehicle, and so do you. And this evening, I want to talk to you about some of the things you can do to make sure your car or motorbike isn't stolen. I'll start with a few facts and figures to put you in the picture. Car theft is a widespread problem. In this country alone, one car is stolen every 32 seconds. That's almost 1 million cars each year. And of those, 40% are never recovered. And don't think that just because your car might be a bit old and beaten up, no one will steal it. Any car can be stolen anywhere. Most thefts occur in residential areas, often from the front of the house or even from inside the garage. Some areas that are especially dangerous are shopping centres and parking lots, particularly at sports events. Most car thieves don't need to break into the car. They usually gain entry through unlocked doors, and many times they find the key in the ignition. In fact, 1 in 5 stolen cars had the keys left in the car. Isn't that amazing? 25% of drivers left the keys in the ignition of an unlocked car. Who steals cars? Well, there are basically two kinds of car and bike thieves: joyriders, aged about 15 to 21, and professionals. This last group usually needs less than 1 minute to break into a locked car, and they often steal cars to use in other crimes, such as robberies. You are much less likely to get your car back if it's stolen by a professional, and if it's stolen by a joyrider, chances are it'll be a wreck when you get it back. Joyriders have a very high accident rate. Now, since dusk to mid-evening are the peak hours for car theft, make sure you park in a well-lit area, preferably where there are plenty of passers-by, say near a busy store or restaurant.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
What can you do to make sure your car isn't stolen? Well, first, and most obviously, lock the car when you leave it. That includes locking the boot or hatchback and making sure all the windows are closed. Even a tiny gap allows a thief to insert a wire to prise open the lock button. Of course, don't leave the keys hanging in the ignition. And don't conceal a spare key inside or outside the car. Thieves know all the hiding places. If your car breaks down, lock up before you go for help. And even if you can't start the car, a thief may be able to. Avoid leaving your keys with a garage or parking lot attendant. Choose the place you park yourself. Keep your driver's license and registration in your wallet or purse, not in the glove compartment of your car. You should also have a record of your car's vital statistics both in your wallet and somewhere at home. This can help with recovery in case of theft. And finally, it's a good idea to install some kind of safety device. There is a range available, from alarm systems that set off a buzzer or siren if an attempt is made to tamper with the car in any way, to fuel shut-off systems and time delay ignition systems. Displaying a warning sticker will also help deter would-be thieves. They don't want to waste time on trying to steal a protected car. So, help us put car thieves out of business by using common sense. Always locking your car, installing anti-thief devices, and cooperating with the police by reporting any attempt at theft.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You are going to hear a conversation. Before you listen, please look at questions 21 to 30. Now listen to the conversation and answer questions 21 to 30. Hi, Rita. Come on, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Hello, Jane. How are things?
Okay.
Well, as I explained on the phone, I'm a counsellor here at the Student Services section of the university, and I'm interviewing overseas students to help me draw up a guide for new students. So I'd be grateful if you could tell me a little about your time since you've been here in Cambridge.
Right. Good idea.
Now, Rita, let's start with you. Okay, this is your second semester, isn't it? Could you tell us something about your first impression of the town when you arrived?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was struck by how quiet it is here in the evening.
Yes, I suppose Cambridge is a quiet place. Where did you live when you first arrived?
Well, I went straight into student accommodation. It was kind of a student hostel.
All right, so you didn't have to worry about doing your own cooking or anything like that?
No, but sometimes I wished I had. Food at the hostel was awful.
Oh dear. But how are the other students?
To be honest, I haven't managed to make friends. Even though the place is full, people seem to keep to themselves. They're not really very friendly.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, what about the actual course? You're studying,
I'm doing a master's course in environmental studies.
All right. And how are you finding that?
Yeah, well, it's been pretty good, really. I've enjoyed the course, but I feel there hasn't been enough contact with the lecturers. They all seem to be incredibly busy. The only chance I've really had to talk to them was on the field trip.
Well, that's no good. Could anything be done to improve the course in your opinion?
Well, I think it would be helpful to have a meeting with the lecturers on the course. Say once a fortnight, something like that.
Regular meetings. Yes, that could certainly help.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
Now, Rita, we'll come back to you in a minute, but I'd like to ask Jane some questions. Jane, where are you from?
I'm from Indonesia.
And how did you find Cambridge when you first arrived?
Well, I like it here. I think the city is very beautiful.
What about your accommodation? Was that okay?
Yes, okay. At first I stayed with a family for 3 months. They were very kind to me, but they had 3 young children, and I found it difficult to study.
Right, I see.
So after 3 months, I moved out, and now I live with 2 other students in a student house. It's much cheaper, and we like it there.
Good. And what about your studies? What are you studying?
I'm doing a Bachelor of Computing.
Computing. I see. Apart from the language difficulties, if you can separate them, how have you found the course?
Okay, but...
Yes, go on.
Well, the main difficulty for me is getting time on the computers in the computer room. It's always busy, and this makes it very hard to do my practical work.
Yes, I'm sure that it would. Can you reserve time in the computer room?
No, you can't, but it would certainly help if we could reserve computer time.
Yes, I'll look into that and see if something can be done to improve things over there. Now, let's go back to Rita.
The end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Before you listen, please look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen to the lecture and answer questions 31 to 40.
The peregrine falcon, Falco peregrinus, is a majestic prey bird with slate blue upper part and cream-coloured underpart. Its underpart is distinguished by horizontal black barring and spotting. The peregrine's elegant head pattern makes this species very distinctive, even from distance. Male peregrines weigh an average of 611 grams and females 952 grams. And female falcons hatch eggs, while male falcons spend most of their life in looking for food. The peregrine is a powerful, streamlined bird, but in the early days of research, experts did much on the flying height. It is generally believed that peregrines are capable of soaring to heights of 600 meters. At present, there is still a strong controversy among the scientists about how fast they can fly. Peregrine falcons are expert hunters feeding on songbirds, shorebirds, waterfowl, seabirds, and pigeons, all of which are caught in flight. The peregrine is anatomically specialized for hunting by direct pursuit in open area. The prey often tries to escape by gaining altitude, but the peregrine uses its speed to stay above the prey and then dives, killing the prey by a direct blow of the closed fist. In addition to speed, the peregrine may use the element of surprise, swooping from the direction of the sun or suddenly appearing from behind a cliff or around the corner of one of our skyscrapers. In the breeding season, falcons nest on a cliff ledge, cliff top or ledge, or top of the tallest building is also preferred, preying on pigeons in nearby parks. Occasionally, peregrines may nest on the ground. Females lay 2 to 5 eggs in the scrape or nesting site, which is usually just a shallow depression. Eggs are incubated for 32 days, mainly by the female, while the male hunts for food. The young start to fly at about 2 weeks after hatching, but remain dependent on the adults and not full grown until 4 weeks after birth. When they are 4 months old, they are able to hunt on their own, leaving their parents. There are 3 subspecies of the peregrine falcon in Canada. The Arctic peregrine falcon, Falco peregrinus tundrius, occurs across the wide arc of tundra from the Mackenzie Delta to Hudson Bay and Ongava and north to Baffin Island. This subspecies is listed as vulnerable. The Peely peregrine falcon is non-migratory and inhabits the Queen Charlotte Islands and Moore Island, British Columbia. The Peely peregrine is listed as vulnerable within Canada. Most of the southern Canadian breeding populations are on the Anatum subspecies, which is a Canadian endangered species. The peregrine falcon once bred throughout Canada. However, its range has become much more restricted in recent years as populations have undergone declines, while peregrines rarely breed before 3 years of age. Facing such a situation, more scientists start the work on health conditions of peregrines. Recently, a group of experts in Toronto carried out an experiment on the child peregrines. First, they caught the sample child birds, then they attached identification on chicks' legs and foot rings and confirmed the sex. Subsequently, took the blood sample for further examination. Integrating all these data, they would be able to examine the general health conditions of the birds.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.